Hey all, here at OS Reviews. Today we're taking a quick look at the EarFun Air Pro SV, and these are the flagship TWS wireless buds from this company that has in the past been pretty budget conscious with a 30% off coupon that you can often find. The price is a little closer to about $65. Now, part of the higher cost here is definitely going into the design. They look very distinctive with this window that you can kind of look at to see if the buds are inside at a glance. It has this metal lid and very high build quality. They pack in active noise cancellation, which they claim can reduce up to 40 decibels, a little bit higher than the normal 30 to 38 that we see on other budget buds. And they also come with large 10mm wool dynamic drivers, low latency mode for gaming, 24 hours with a battery case, which is just about average, and the usual IPX5 or sweat resistance, plus the other selling point being that they finally support a companion app, something that EarFun's buds have been missing for the past few generations, and this particular app will allow you to further tweak things like EQ as well as the ANC effects, but sadly, this app is not compatible with any of their previous buds. The touch controls also allow you to do things like change the volume, which is great to see, and you can further tweak some of those settings in the app, which we'll take a look at later on. Do have a quick pamphlet. It tells you how to quickly get started. Pretty simple stuff. Further underneath, you'll find access to a USB Type-C charging cable, along with some spare silicone tips and also a cotton swab. So if you want to really clean out these silicone tips after you're wearing them. Closer look at the design of the Air Pro SVs. I have to say it does look quite distinctive and different from most other buds on the market, which is not something we can easily say these days, especially in the budget segment. Although one downside is if you're putting it into somewhere that has a lot of dust or lint, it's also easier for it to get into the case while in transit. You have to clean it maybe a little bit more regularly, but definitely looks cool. And again, the front texture here is made out of aluminum alloy, so it's very cold and premium to the touch. The case even supports Qi wireless charging, although interestingly, it's not a feature that they really advertise on their site. Here it is as a quick size comparison with standard AirPods, not too far off, I have to say, which is impressive since these do have more features packed inside. When you pop open the door, they will automatically turn on and start to pair with your device, so it is a pretty fast and seamless process. Again, these are magnetic, so they are pretty easy also to pop in and charge. It reminds me a bit of the Phil CC Pro, which also have these really sharp angular corners in terms of their edges. In fact, if you disregard the case itself, I would even say they are almost identical to the Phil CC Pros, in that in terms of when you're wearing them, actually what's pointing outwards is this sharper edge, so it gets it this interesting profile that looks pretty sleek and clean, although just like the Phil CC Pros, I would say one downside is the touch sensors are on the side, which is not on the point here. So as you're hitting it, you have to kind of hit on it sideways a little bit. Instead of, if it was flat, it would have this entire surface which is touch sensitive, and otherwise have a pretty typical fit in terms of the ergonomics. One thing that these are missing though would be a proximity sensor, so they don't have an auto play and pause IR light in there. Nonetheless, it feels secure and comfortable as I was wearing these for a few hours, didn't really notice any stress or strain. I could walk around, do a little bit of movement, and they still stayed in place quite well. You can see their battery percentage. You can enter into the ANC ambient mode or the normal mode at a click. You can also do that with the buds themselves, of course. Turn on the low latency mode for gaming, as well as the aforementioned equalizers, which you have 4 of these at the moment. Bass boosted, reduce, treble boost, and reduce, as well as a custom EQ that you can further tweak the frequencies per your liking. So it's nothing too extraordinary in terms of we don't necessarily get a custom hearing test personalized mode like what some of One More's and Anchor's buds can do, but nonetheless it's still nice to have, and these do make a noticeable difference, at least when you flick them on or off, depending on the genre. Now under device settings, you're also able to take a look at changing the controls, so customizing what a triple and a single tap will do, so this can be rearranged as well. Like I said, they can do pretty much everything, including volume, skip tracks, play pause. So that's the app right now. It still is a little on the simple side, and it's not necessarily going to be quite as rich as some of the competitors, but nonetheless it does work well enough in terms of quickly switching between things. Would be nice to maybe allow you to adjust the ANC intensity, but overall as a first generation app, I do like the fact that they're starting to catch up there. Moving into the audio quality and performance, I would say that luckily the EarFun Air Pro SVs, like many of EarFun's past buds that we've seen, do sound very good in the sense that even the natural tuning is quite dynamic. The large drivers on here do make a difference in the sense that if you're listening to bass, it gives you a slight kick in the back end, but never too overpowering either. But it's enjoyable if you're listening to some EDM songs with drum beats. At the same time, mids and trebles were still very pleasant. I was able to discern singers' vocals, get immersed by the music, as well as I enjoyed instrumentals like guitars, acoustic tracks as well. So they're very pleasant and easy to listen to, comfortable, and just a overall very smooth sound. Luckily, you also won't hear any hissing, no static, anything like that in the background. Playing and pausing feels very natural. One thing I will say though is that these do come with just the standard audio codecs, so that includes with Bluetooth 5.2, SBC, and AAC, but you won't find aptX nor LDAC. Still, overall connectivity felt strong. I could walk around without getting disconnected. The music was still loud and clear, and as usual for, again, this brand, which in the past has really focused on the budget side, but still giving you very solid and loud sound, this is once again characteristic of what we are hearing. Now, the efficacy of active noise cancellation is also quite good on these. It's definitely helped by those improved additional microphones and, again, some of the optimization that the company is claiming. Indeed, it is going to be better than some of the ultra budget ANC buds we've tried in the past, in that if you are in a similar scenario, it tries to reduce a bit more of that noise. Certainly does well for low frequency sounds like car engines and also with fans. But I would still say, compared to some of the Sony's and Bose's buds, those can still do a little bit more, especially with voices. They can still occasionally creep in on here. Still, it's great to have this, and overall, it's going to allow you to listen to music without turning the volume quite as high when you are outdoors and have a bit of background chatter around you. Call quality, I would say, is definitely above average, good enough for calling and a little bit of chats if you are playing back a game, which, speaking of, with the low latency mode definitely helps as well. So there's almost no lag when you're watching back a YouTube video between the audio and the video, so everything is pretty pleasant to use. So that's more or less it as far as our hands-on review of the EarFun Air Pro SVs. It ticks pretty much all of the boxes that most folks would look for. So if you want something a little more style, I would say the sound quality definitely still holds up, which is great. With that being said, it was nice to see if they have further software updates in the future that can bring even more additional kind of granular controls. I think that would be nice to have, as well as maybe slightly longer battery life in a future generation, but this is still good enough, I would say. These have been the Air Pro SVs.